Hi guys, Tracy here with another layout for scrapbooksuppliesonline.com.au, and I'm using the Serendipity collection again. I have the 12 by 12 paper pack, I have the sticker pack, I have the alphabet stickers and the pins and tags. And that's what I'm using for this layout. And so here I'm just going through the scraps that I have left of this. I've really used this paper pack up a lot, and there's still a lot left. So one paper collection really goes a long way. So in this layout, I'm going to use another one of these papers as a background paper that has a design printed on it. And I've done a couple of other layouts using papers like this, but usually I cover up all of the printed parts on it. But for this one, I actually liked the little bicycle and I liked the little cluster of stuff below the bicycle. Um, and so I wanted to keep those, but I don't like the printed look of it. So what I'm doing is I'm adding a couple of things to the clusters so that it looks like the whole thing is customized, even though I'm only just adding a couple of little touches. So I'm going to add a little strip of paper that I'm going to staple on for texture. And I'm also going to do some sewing down there. And I'm also going to add some stamps. And I put my acrylic stamps out already on it just to figure out the size. And now I'm just going to do some layers underneath of the photo. This is a photo of my oldest daughter on grading day. We got her a bike. It's not like we wouldn't normally have gotten her such a big present, but she needed a bike anyways because her bike was way too small for her. So we just happened to give it to her on grading day, and I guess it's a grading present, but most of her grading presents won't be that big. So I'm just kind of picking out a variety of different papers, and there's not really any real rhyme or reason to what I'm picking. I mean, the collection all looks really good together, so you can't really go wrong. I'm just picking out some colors so that I've got more than just one. Um, and I want to make sure that I'm going to be repeating colors throughout and that sort of. It's really a bit of a no-brainer when you're working with a collection pack like this. So I could have really picked any papers and I'm sure they would have looked good. Um, and I just varied the size of the layers and had some of the layers go sort of up and down and some of the layers go horizontal. And I'm outlining all of my layers this time. I don't always do that, but and then I'm also going to put pop dots between some of my layers just to make them pop out a little bit. And so you'll notice that some of them I didn't do a great job of eyeballing how wide I needed some of them to be. So if they weren't wide enough, I just cut them in half. And you're not going to see that. It's kind of a bit of a way. It's a bit of a cheater method, but it's better than cutting a whole new piece of paper and wasting that piece that you've cut. There is a piece of vellum that's sticking out. I made it look like it's running the length of that cluster, but it's actually just a strip on the top and a strip on the bottom. It was just a scrap I had laying on my table. I could have gone and gotten a full piece of vellum, but I had the scrap, so I just decided to use that. And I'm just putting all of these layers together in a way that they're all going to be poking out and showing and looking like they're full single pieces of paper. I'm adding some outlining to that cluster down below just to, again, give it a bit more of a handmade look so it doesn't seem obvious that it's a printed cluster. And now I'm going to put that strip of paper so that it's partially covering the strip that's on the top. I'm outlining the kite just to give it a bit more dimension. And again, a bit more of a handmade look. And right now I am figuring out where I'm going to put my stamping on that lower cluster. And I wanted to put an arrow going between 1 and 2. So I went with the canvas arrow from the Mistables Studio Calico shapes that came in the Studio Calico kit this month. And this is one of the few things in this layout that are not from the Serendipity collection by Basic Gray. It's just from my own stash. And so now I'm going to use my VersaFine Black Onyx ink. And I'm just putting the arrow down there just to make sure that I've got enough space between my 1 and my 2 to put the arrow in between. And I misted that arrow with Overdue Mr. Huey's. And sorry, some of this is happening out of screen. I keep forgetting to zoom out. So then I just took from the same stamp collection, and that's just a stamp set from my stash. Actually, Serena gave me that, who is Misery Cantoray, here on YouTube, and I can't remember who makes that stamp set, but I used a Prima Fluid chalk ink in orange to stamp out the word grade. And now I am putting out the letters to form the word bike. I'm just using my grid paper to help me keep them straight. Playing a little bit with the placement, making sure that it's going to fit on that strip of yellow paper that I plan to use. And I'm going to put the yellow paper in such a way that you can see the fake Dymo label that says "Enjoy the Journey." Taking a little bit off of that strip because it was a little bit too chunky. And adding a strip from the pattern paper to make 2 layered banners. And there we go. Now I'm going to place my letters. And using a banner like this helps you keep your letters straight, and it also grounds them so that they don't look like they're floating. And now I'm outlining on these letters instead of outlining around them. And this is just for a different look. And I wasn't very careful about making my lines very straight because I knew I was going to doodle on it like this. And, you know, they don't really have to be straight if you're going to do a lot of doodling. They don't have to be straight anyways. But I might have preferred them straighter if I didn't do the doodling. So it's also a good way, the doodling is a good way to fix up if your letters, if you were trying to make them straight and they wound up a little wonkier than what you were expecting, you can always just add some doodles and then it just looks like you meant for it to be that way. I'm adding some stitching on both the top and the bottom clusters, just again to add more customized details to those already printed clusters. And I'm going to outline the word grade just because it was fading too much into the green background there and the orange ink doesn't stand out all that much. Thinking about what letters and what stickers and embellishments I'm going to use, I end up using very few embellishments on this. And I don't know what I'm doing here. And now I'm just going to kind of experiment, and I decided to just go with some pins. So pins are the only thing that I'm going to add. That's not a paper embellishment. And I decided that the main cluster of layers that go with the photo needed something dark because there's the dark fake Dymo label on the top, and then there's dark stamping and dark colors on the bottom. So the middle cluster with the photo was a little bit too light. It needed something to kind of help it blend with the rest of the layout. And then that bike was just too perfect. It fit too well to not put it there. So I decided to put that bike stamp there. That's a Studio Calico stamp. And this is how I put my pins into my layouts. I put a piece of foam tape and then I just slide the pins into the foam. And that was a tiny little piece of foam tape, so it wasn't going to hold those pins for very long, so I just added some glossy accents. And I'm just waiting for it to dry. And now I wanted one more embellishment, and so I'm going to make a tab I was going to use yellow, and then I thought, no, that would be too much contrast. I didn't want to introduce a new paper at this point, so I just cut another piece from the background, which had a nice subtle chevron print on it. You'll see it in the close-ups at the end. And so I just took a little bit more of that paper from the second piece. That's a nice thing about basic gray collection packs, is that they all come with 2 pieces of each paper. And that is the stamp that went with the bicycles. It's the sentiment that says enjoy the ride. And so I stamped it in the same orange ink I used before on the word grade. And then I just outlined the tab. That's an MFT die. I use that one a lot. And I just stapled it on. And so here's the close-up of how everything looks together. And see that really nice subtle chevron print? And so I wanted to use that on the tab as well. You'll see it when it comes up. There are those pins, and that scalloped border is created with a EK Success punch. And then there's that lower cluster. So this is one way of combining a printed background and adding some customized elements. It makes for a really, really quick layout. This one only took me about an hour, maybe an hour and 10 minutes or so. So thanks for watching, guys.